My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 6 months, I thought I was losing my mind. Every morning, I'd wake up groggy, disoriented, with gaps in my memory from the night before. My husband told me I was stressed, that I needed to relax, that maybe I should see a therapist, and like a fool, I believed him. I believed every single word that came out of his lying mouth. 3 weeks ago, I installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. What that camera captured, what I saw my husband doing to me night after night while I lay unconscious, it still makes me physically ill. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you how I exposed my husband's sick plan, how I discovered he'd been drugging me for months while plotting something so twisted, I still can't believe it's real. I need you to hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because this story gets absolutely insane. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Trust me, you're going to want to stay until the very end because what my husband was doing, why he was drugging me, it's worse than anything you could imagine. So let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about Daniel Carter, my husband of 5 years, the man I trusted with my life, the man who was systematically destroying that life, one drugged glass of water at a time. We met 7 years ago at a medical conference in Chicago. I'm a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital in Denver. Daniel was there, representing his pharmaceutical sales company. He was charming, successful, attractive. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. I fell for it completely. We dated long distance for 6 months before he relocated to Denver to be with me. It felt like fate. It felt like I'd found my soulmate. We got married 2 years later in a beautiful ceremony in the mountains. My whole family was there. His whole family flew in from California. I remember standing at that altar looking into his eyes, thinking I was the luckiest woman alive. He promised to love me, cherish me, protect me in sickness and in health. He promised to be faithful, to honor me, to stand by me always. I believed every word. God, I was so naive. The first few years of marriage were good. We bought a cute craftsman house in Park Hill. I loved my job at the hospital. Daniel was doing well in pharmaceutical sales, traveling occasionally, but always coming home to me. We talked about starting a family. We planned our future together. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. Looking back now, I can see when things started to change. It was about a year ago. Daniel got a promotion to regional manager. Suddenly, he was traveling more, working longer hours, always on his phone. He hired a new assistant, a woman named Brianna who was 24, blonde, and according to Daniel, incredibly efficient at her job. He started mentioning her constantly. Brianna organized the client dinner perfectly. Brianna saved us thousands on the Portland account. Brianna's working late with me tonight on the quarterly reports. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted my husband. We'd been married for 4 years at that point. Why would I suspect anything? But my best friend Lauren started making comments. My sister Natalia asked if I was worried about how much time Daniel was spending with his young assistant, and I defended him. I got angry at them for even suggesting there was something wrong. I told them they were being paranoid, that Daniel loved me, that our marriage was solid. I was so blind, so stupidly, pathetically blind. About 6 months ago, things got worse. I started experiencing strange symptoms that I couldn't explain. I'd wake up in the morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, groggy, confused, with a pounding headache. My memory started getting fuzzy. I'd have entire conversations with Daniel at night that I couldn't remember the next morning. I'd find things moved in the house, doors unlocked, lights on that I didn't remember leaving on. At first, I thought I was overworking myself. The hospital had been short-staffed, and I'd been pulling extra shifts. Maybe I was just exhausted. But the symptoms got worse. I'd wake up some mornings and not remember going to bed at all. There would be hours missing from my memory, blank spaces in my timeline that terrified me. I went to my doctor, ran every test imaginable. Blood work, MRI, neurological exam. Everything came back normal. The doctor suggested it might be stress, maybe early onset insomnia, possibly anxiety. He offered to prescribe sleeping pills, but I refused. I was already feeling drugged enough without adding more medication. Daniel was so supportive during all of this. He'd hold me when I cried about my memory problems. He'd reassure me that we'd figure it out together. He suggested I take a leave of absence from work, that maybe I needed rest. He started making me chamomile tea at night to help me sleep better. He'd bring me a glass of water before bed, insisting I stay hydrated. He was so attentive, so caring, so concerned. I thought I'd married the perfect man. A man who stood by me even when I was falling apart, even when I was becoming a burden. I felt guilty for doubting him earlier, for letting my friend's suspicions get into my head. Here he was, proving what a devoted husband he truly was. But I was wrong. I was so terribly, horribly wrong. The memory gaps got worse. I'd wake up and Daniel would tell me about conversations we'd had the night before, things I'd apparently said or agreed to, and I'd have no recollection of any of it. He said I'd agreed to let him handle our finances completely. He said I'd told him I wanted to quit my job. He said I'd discussed putting the house in his name only to simplify our taxes. I didn't remember saying any of those things, but Daniel insisted I had, that I was just forgetting. Again, that my memory problems were getting serious. He even showed me texts I'd supposedly sent him, but I didn't remember writing them. My own phone was betraying me, showing evidence of conversations I couldn't recall having. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind, if something was seriously wrong with my brain. The doctor had cleared me, but maybe they'd missed something. Maybe I had early onset dementia. Maybe I was having mini strokes. Maybe I was going crazy. My work performance started suffering. I'd miss shifts I could have sworn I'd requested off. I'd forget patient protocols I'd known for years. My supervisor called me in for a meeting, concerned about my recent errors. I was a good nurse, had been for 8 years, but suddenly I was making mistakes that could endanger patients. Daniel suggested again that I should take medical leave, that I should focus on getting better, that he could support us on his salary while I figured out what was wrong with me. And in a moment of weakness, feeling like I was drowning, I agreed. I went on medical leave 3 months ago, thinking I needed time to heal, time to figure out what was happening to my brain. That's when things got even stranger. Without work to distract me, I started noticing more. I'd wake up and my clothes would be different from what I'd worn to bed. I'd find bruises on my arms that I didn't remember getting. Once I woke up and my wedding ring was gone, only to find it later in Daniel's sock drawer. When I asked him about it, he said I'd taken it off the night before, said it was bothering me, that I'd asked him to put it somewhere safe. I didn't remember any of that, but by this point, I didn't remember much of anything that happened after 9 p.m. My sister Natalia came to visit one afternoon. She was shocked by how I looked. Pale, exhausted, confused. She asked if I was sick, if something was seriously wrong. I broke down and told her everything. The memory loss, the gaps in time, the feeling that I was losing my grip on reality. Natalia looked at me with this expression I couldn't read. Then she asked me a question that changed everything. Maya, when did this start? When did the memory problems begin? I thought about it. About 6 months ago, maybe a little less. And when did Daniel start bringing you water before bed? I stared at her. Around the same time. He said I needed to stay hydrated, that it would help with my headaches. Natalia's face went pale. Maya, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What if the water is causing the problem? What if Daniel is putting something in it? I actually laughed at her. That's insane, Nat. Daniel wouldn't drug me. He's my husband. He loves me. But Natalia wasn't laughing. Think about it. Every night he brings you water. Every night you drink it. Every night you lose hours of memory. Every morning you wake up feeling drugged. Maya, that's not a coincidence. You're being paranoid, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, something cold settled in my stomach. Because what if she was right? What if my own husband was drugging me? But why? Why would Daniel do something like that? After Natalia left, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tried to dismiss it as my sister being overprotective, being suspicious of Daniel like she'd always been. But the seed of doubt had been planted. And once you start questioning, it's hard to stop. That night, Daniel came home from work around 7. He was in a good mood, talking about a big client he'd landed, about a bonus he was expecting. He made dinner, poured me a glass of wine, and we ate together like a normal married couple. Around 9, he brought me my nightly glass of water. Here you go, babe, he said, handing it to me with a smile. Make sure you drink it all. It'll help you sleep better. I took the glass from him, but for the first time, I looked at it closely. It was just water, clear, normal looking. No strange color or smell. Nothing that would indicate it was anything other than what it appeared to be. But Natalia's words echoed in my head. What if Daniel is putting something in it? I pretended to take a sip, then set the glass on my nightstand. I'll drink it in a bit, I said. I'm not thirsty yet. Daniel's expression changed, just for a second. A flash of something. Annoyance? Concern? It was gone so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. You should drink it now while it's cold, he said. I put ice in it, just how you like it. I will, I said. Just give me a few minutes. He stood there for a moment watching me. Then he smiled. Okay, babe, I'm going to take a shower. Make sure you finish that water before bed. The moment he left the room, my heart started racing. Why was he so insistent that I drink the water? Why did it matter if I drank it now or later? Normal husbands didn't monitor their wives' water consumption like that. I looked at the glass on my nightstand. It looked innocent enough, just water with ice. But what if it wasn't? What if Natalia was right? I had to know. I had to be sure. I grabbed my phone and quickly searched for how to test for drugs in water. Most methods required test kits I didn't have. But one article suggested that if you suspect something has been added to your drink, pour most of it out but save a small sample in a sealed container for testing. I grabbed an empty pill bottle from my bathroom, rinsed it out, and carefully poured about an ounce of water from my glass into it. I sealed it tight and hid it in my tampon box under the sink, a place Daniel would never look. Then I went to the kitchen, refilled my glass with fresh water from the tap, and brought it back to the bedroom. When Daniel came out of the shower, the glass was half empty on my nightstand. "Good girl," he said, kissing my forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," I said. Which was true. I was always tired lately. "Well, you should get some rest," Daniel said. "I'm going to watch TV downstairs for a bit. You go ahead and sleep." I nodded and closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, alert, waiting to see if anything would happen, waiting to see if I would feel the effects of drugs that weren't there. Nothing happened. I stayed completely lucid, completely aware. For the first time in 6 months, I didn't pass out into a drugged stupor. I didn't lose hours of memory. I remained conscious all night. And that's when I knew. Natalia was right. Daniel had been drugging me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My husband, the man I'd loved and trusted for 7 years, had been systematically drugging me every single night for months. But why? What could possibly be his reason for doing this to me? Before I continue, if this story is making your blood boil like mine was, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the revenge gets so much better. Your support means everything to this channel. The next morning, I woke up early, completely clear-headed for the first time in months. Daniel was still asleep beside me, peaceful, innocent-looking. I wanted to scream at him, to shake him awake and demand answers, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. I needed evidence. I needed proof of what he was doing, and more importantly, I needed to know why. I got out of bed quietly and took the water sample I'd hidden in the bathroom. I'd do some research and find a place that could test it for drugs. But I also knew I needed more than just one contaminated water sample. I needed to catch Daniel in the act. I needed video evidence of him drugging me. I spent that morning researching hidden cameras online. There were dozens of options. Cameras disguised as alarm clocks, picture frames, phone chargers, smoke detectors. I chose a clock camera that looked identical to the one we already had on my nightstand. It had night vision, motion detection, and could record up to 12 hours of footage on a memory card. I ordered it with expedited shipping. It would arrive in 2 days. That night, Daniel brought me my water again, right on schedule at 9 p.m. "Here you go, sweetheart," he said. "Drink up." I took the glass and made a show of drinking it in front of him. Then I excused myself to the bathroom, poured most of it down the sink, and saved another small sample in a different container. When I came back to bed, Daniel seemed satisfied. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Tired," I said. "I think I'll go to sleep early tonight." "That's good," Daniel said. "You need your rest." He kissed me goodnight and went downstairs. I lay there in bed, awake, alert, listening to him move around the house. Around midnight, I heard him come back upstairs, heard him peek into the bedroom to check on me. I kept my breathing steady, pretended to be asleep. Apparently satisfied, he went to the guest room where he'd been sleeping lately. He said it was because he didn't want to disturb my rest with his snoring. Now I wondered if there was another reason. The hidden camera arrived 2 days later. Daniel was at work, so I had time to set it up. I removed our old alarm clock and replaced it with the camera clock. They looked identical. Daniel would never notice the difference. I positioned it so it had a clear view of my nightstand in the bed. Then I turned it on, set it to motion detection mode, and hid the old clock in my closet. That night, everything proceeded as usual. Daniel came home, made dinner, brought me my water at 9 p.m. sharp. "Drink up, baby," he said, with that smile I'd once loved. I pretended to drink it, nodded, and said goodnight. Daniel went downstairs. I poured the water down the bathroom sink, saved another sample, and got into bed. The camera was recording. All I had to do was wait. The next morning, I waited until Daniel left for work. Then I grabbed the camera's memory card and plugged it into my laptop. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the video file. Part of me still hoped I was wrong. that this was all a terrible misunderstanding, that Daniel wasn't actually drugging me. But as I watched the footage, that hope died. The video showed Daniel coming into our bedroom around 10 p.m., after I'd supposedly been asleep for an hour. He walked to my side of the bed and stood there looking down at me. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He reached out and shook my shoulder hard. "Maya," he said loudly. "Maya, wake up." On the video, I didn't move, didn't respond at all. I was completely unconscious. Daniel smiled, actually smiled. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. I turned the laptop volume up to hear what he was saying. "Hey baby, she's out," Daniel said. "Yeah, I gave her the usual dose. She'll be unconscious for at least 6 hours. You can come over now." My stomach dropped. He was calling someone, telling them to come over, while I was drugged and unconscious in our bed. "I know, I can't wait either," Daniel continued. "We can finally go through her stuff without worrying about her waking up." "Yeah," the lawyer said once we have everything documented, the incompetency filing should be easy. Her own medical records show she's having severe cognitive problems. Her job put her on leave. It's perfect. Incompetency filing. He was trying to have me declared legally incompetent. "Once the judge signs off on it, I'll have full power of attorney," Daniel said. "I can access all her accounts, sell the house, everything, and with the life insurance policy I increased last month, we'll be set when she has her accident." When she has her accident? He was planning to kill me. My husband was drugging me to make me seem mentally incompetent so he could gain control of my assets. And then he was planning to murder me and make it look like an accident. I felt like I was going to vomit. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. On the video, Daniel ended his call and started going through my purse. He pulled out my wallet, photographed my credit cards, wrote down information. Then he went to my dresser and started rifling through my jewelry box. He held up my grandmother's diamond necklace, the one I'd inherited when she died, and examined it closely. "This should be worth at least 20 grand, he muttered to himself. He was cataloging my assets, building his case to have me declared incompetent so he could steal everything I owned. About 20 minutes later, I heard a knock on the video. Daniel walked out of frame. When he came back, he wasn't alone. Brianna, his assistant, walked into our bedroom like she owned the place. She was wearing tight jeans and a low-cut top, and when Daniel pulled her into his arms and kissed her, I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle them both. "God, I've missed you," Brianna said, running her hands through Daniel's hair. "I hate that we have to sneak around like this." "Not for much longer," Daniel promised. "Once Maya's gone, we can be together openly. No more hiding." "How much longer do you think?" Brianna asked. "The incompetency hearing is in 3 weeks," Daniel said. "Once I have power of attorney, I'll stage an accident within a few days. Make it look like she fell down the stairs or overdosed on her medications. The police won't question it. Everyone knows she's been having mental problems." "And you're sure the life insurance will pay out?" Brianna asked. "Positive," Daniel said. "I increased the policy to $2 million 6 months ago. Accidental death pays double. That's $4 million, baby. Plus her inheritance trust fund, that's another $3 million. Her portion of the house equity, another $400,000. We're looking at over $7 million once everything is settled." $7 million. That's what my life was worth to him. $7 million and a 24-year-old mistress. "What about her family?" Brianna asked. "Won't they be suspicious?" Daniel shrugged. "Her parents are in Florida. Her sister has never liked me. They'll probably suspect something, but they won't be able to prove anything. Maya's own medical records show she was deteriorating mentally. It'll look like a tragic accident. A sick woman who fell or took too many pills." They sat on my bed, and discussed my murder like they were planning a vacation. Brianna asked about the funeral arrangements. Daniel said he'd keep it small and cheap. Brianna wondered if she should pretend to be sad in public. Daniel told her to just avoid my family and colleagues. Then they started kissing, right there on my bed, with me lying unconscious 3 feet away from them. I watched in horror as Daniel pulled Brianna's shirt off, as they started undressing each other, as they fell onto my bed and had sex while I lay drugged and helpless in the same room. I couldn't watch anymore. I stopped the video, ran to the bathroom, and threw up. I threw up until there was nothing left in my stomach, until I was just dry heaving over the toilet. My husband wasn't just drugging me and planning to kill me. He was using my unconscious state to have affairs in our bedroom, to steal my possessions, to build a case against my sanity. For 6 months, he'd been systematically destroying my life, making me think I was going crazy, using my confusion and memory loss as evidence of incompetency, increasing my life insurance policy, planning my murder, and all while fucking his assistant in our bed while I lay drugged and unconscious next to them. I sat on the bathroom floor and cried. I cried for my destroyed marriage. I cried for the man I thought I'd known. I cried for the life I thought I had. And then the crying stopped, and the rage began. Daniel thought he was so clever, thought he had this perfect plan, thought he'd gotten away with it. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd assumed I would stay unconscious. He'd assumed I'd keep drinking the drugged water. He'd assumed I'd never figure it out. He was wrong. And now I had evidence. Video evidence of him admitting to drugging me, of planning my murder, of committing adultery in our home. I had him on tape, confessing everything. But I couldn't just go to the police. Not yet. Because Daniel was right about one thing. I did have medical records showing cognitive problems. I was on medical leave from my job. If I went to the police now and told them my husband was drugging me, would they believe me? Or would they think I was a paranoid, mentally ill woman making accusations against my devoted husband? I needed more. I needed a lawyer. I needed to document everything. And I needed to play along with Daniel's plan just long enough to gather enough evidence that no one could possibly doubt what he was doing. I spent that day making calls. I found a lab that could test my water samples for drugs. I found a lawyer who specialized in domestic cases involving abuse and fraud. And I made copies of the video, storing them in 3 separate locations, including a cloud account Daniel didn't know about. The lab results came back 2 days later. All 3 water samples tested positive for Rohypnol, also known as the date rape drug, large doses that would cause complete unconsciousness and amnesia. My husband had been roofying me every single night for months. I met with the lawyer, Elizabeth Chen, at her office downtown. I showed her everything, the video, the drug test results, my medical records, our financial documents. I told her about the incompetency hearing Daniel had mentioned, about his plan to kill me and make it look like an accident. Elizabeth listened to everything with a grave expression. When I finished, she looked at me with a mixture of compassion and fury. "Maya," she said, "what Daniel is doing is criminal on multiple levels. Drugging, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, but you're right that we need to be strategic. If we go to the police now, a good defense attorney could argue that the video is inadmissible or that Daniel was just talking big to impress his girlfriend." "So what do we do?" I asked. "We gather more evidence," Elizabeth said. "We record more nights. We document every time he drugs you. We find out when this incompetency hearing is scheduled and we prepare to counter it. And most importantly, we make sure you're safe. Because if Daniel suspects you know what he's doing, he might accelerate his timeline." We spent the next 3 hours planning my counterattack. Elizabeth would quietly investigate Daniel's finances, looking for evidence of other fraud. I would continue to pretend to drink the drugged water while recording every night. We'd document his affair with Brianna. We'd build a case so airtight that Daniel wouldn't be able to talk his way out of it. "One more thing," Elizabeth said. "You need to tell someone you trust what's happening. Your sister, your best friend. Someone who knows the truth in case something happens to you. Someone who can go to the police with all this evidence if Daniel succeeds in killing you before we can stop him." That night, I told Natalia everything. I showed her the video, watched her face go from shock to horror to absolute rage. She wanted to kill Daniel herself. I had to physically stop her from driving to his office and confronting him. "Nat, we have to be smart about this," I said. "If he knows we're on to him, he'll either disappear or he'll kill me immediately. We have to play along until we have enough evidence to destroy him completely." Natalia agreed, reluctantly. She made me promise to check in with her every single day. If she didn't hear from me, she'd go to the police immediately with everything. For the next 2 weeks, I played the role of drugged, confused wife perfectly. Every night, Daniel brought me water. Every night, I pretended to drink it. Every night, I poured it down the sink and saved a sample. And every night, the hidden camera recorded Daniel's activities. The footage was damning. Multiple nights of him and Brianna having sex in our bedroom while I lay unconscious. Conversations about how they'd spend my money. Discussions of where they'd move after I was dead. Daniel going through my personal documents, my laptop, my phone while I was incapacitated. On one video, he actually Googled how to make a fall downstairs look accidental. I collected it all. Every piece of evidence, every sample of drugged water, every video, every photo Daniel took of my jewelry and documents. Elizabeth reviewed everything and confirmed we had more than enough for criminal charges. But she wanted one more thing. "We need to know when the incompetency hearing is scheduled," she said. "That's when we strike. We show up at the courthouse, present our evidence to the judge, and Daniel's entire plan falls apart." I found the information on Daniel's laptop while he was in the shower one evening. The hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. Daniel's lawyer had already filed the petition, claiming I was suffering from severe cognitive decline and needed a conservatorship. The petition included statements from Daniel describing my forgetfulness, confusion, and inability to care for myself. It included my medical records, showing unexplained symptoms. It even included a statement from my former supervisor at the hospital, saying I'd been put on medical leave due to performance issues. Daniel had built an elaborate case. If I hadn't discovered what he was doing, if I hadn't stopped drinking the drugged water, if I hadn't recorded his confessions, he would have succeeded. I would have been declared incompetent, he would have gotten power of attorney, and within days I would have been dead. The realization of how close I'd come to being murdered made me physically ill. On Tuesday morning, the day of the hearing, I got up early and got ready. I put on my best professional outfit, did my hair and makeup, and made sure I looked completely healthy and competent. Daniel had already left for work, though Elizabeth's investigator had confirmed he was actually meeting with his lawyer to prepare for the hearing. At 1 p.m., I drove downtown to the courthouse. Elizabeth met me outside with her assistant and a briefcase full of evidence. My sister Natalia was there too, and my best friend Lauren. I'd filled Lauren in on everything the night before. She'd been horrified and immediately offered to testify on my behalf. "Are you ready?" Elizabeth asked. I nodded. "Let's destroy him." We walked into the courtroom at 1:45. Daniel was already there with his lawyer, sitting at the petitioner's table. When he saw me walk in, his face went completely white. "Maya," he said, standing up, "what are you doing here? You should be home resting." "I'm feeling much better, actually," I said, my voice cold. Funny how quickly cognitive symptoms disappear once you stop being drugged. Daniel's lawyer looked confused. "I'm sorry, what?" Elizabeth stepped forward. "Your Honor, I'm Elizabeth Chen, and I'm representing Maya Rodriguez in opposition to this conservatorship petition. We have evidence that Mr. Rodriguez has been systematically drugging his wife for the past 6 months in order to make her appear mentally incompetent." The judge, an older woman named Judge Martinez, looked up sharply. "That's a serious accusation, Ms. Chen." "It's a serious crime, Your Honor," Elizabeth said, "and we have proof." What happened next was the most satisfying hour of my life. Elizabeth presented everything: the video footage of Daniel admitting he drugged me, the lab results showing rohypnol in the water samples, medical expert testimony explaining how the drug would cause all of my reported symptoms, bank records showing Daniel had increased my life insurance policy to $4 million, more video of Daniel and Brianna discussing killing me and stealing my assets. Daniel's face went from white to gray to green as each piece of evidence was presented. His lawyer tried to object, tried to argue inadmissibility, but Judge Martinez shut him down. "I'll decide what's admissible in my courtroom," she said, "and I want to see all of it." We played the video of Daniel shaking me, trying to wake me up while I was drugged unconscious. We played the video of him calling Brianna, telling her about the usual dose. We played the video of them having sex in our bedroom while I lay 3 feet away from them. By the time Elizabeth finished, Daniel looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. His lawyer was frantically whispering to him, probably telling him to invoke his Fifth Amendment rights. Judge Martinez looked at Daniel with absolute disgust. "Mr. Rodriguez, I am denying this conservatorship petition immediately. Furthermore, I am ordering a full investigation into these allegations. Bailiff, please detain Mr. Rodriguez while I contact the district attorney's office." "Your Honor, you can't," Daniel's lawyer started. "I absolutely can," Judge Martinez said. "Your client has just been caught on video, admitting to drugging his wife and conspiring to murder her for insurance money. He's a flight risk and a danger. He's not leaving this courtroom a free man." 2 bailiffs approached Daniel. He looked at me with what I think was supposed to be a pleading expression. "Maya, please, you don't understand. I can explain." "Explain what?" I said, my voice steady and cold. "Explain how you've been drugging me every night for 6 months. Explain how you were planning to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my inheritance. Explain how you were going to kill me and make it look like an accident. Explain how you've been fucking your assistant in our bed while I lay unconscious next to you. Please, Daniel, I'd love to hear you try to explain any of that." Daniel's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The bailiffs handcuffed him. As they led him away, Brianna, who'd been sitting in the back of the courtroom, stood up like she was going to leave, but Judge Martinez noticed her. "Ms. Morrison, please remain seated," the judge said. "I believe the DA will want to speak with you as well about your role in this conspiracy." Brianna sat back down, her face pale with terror. "Thank you for staying until the end. If this story gave you the justice you needed to see, check out the other videos on screen. They're just as satisfying. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? See you in the next story." The DA moved fast. Within hours, Daniel was formally charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault, fraud, and about a dozen other felonies. Brianna was charged as an accomplice. Both were denied bail after the judge reviewed the video evidence showing they'd been actively planning my murder. The case made local news. Pharmaceutical sales manager accused of drugging wife in murder plot was the headline. Daniel's company fired him immediately. His family was horrified. His mother called me sobbing, apologizing for raising such a monster. The trial took place 4 months later. The prosecution presented all of our evidence: the videos, the drug tests, expert testimony about Rohypnol and its effects, financial records showing Daniel's mounting debts that I hadn't known about. Apparently, his gambling problem had left him desperate for money. My inheritance and life insurance were his way out. Brianna took a plea deal and testified against Daniel. She described how he'd recruited her into the plan, promised her a life of luxury if she helped him. She'd known he was drugging me. She'd known he planned to kill me. She'd gone along with it because she thought she loved him, because he'd promised her everything. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Daniel was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for 25 years. Brianna got 15 years. They'll both be old before they ever taste freedom again. I was in the courtroom for the sentencing. I wanted to look Daniel in the eye one last time. When the judge read the verdict, Daniel turned to look at me. I smiled at him, a cold, satisfied smile. "You should have just asked for a divorce," I said quietly. "Would have been so much easier." Daniel was led away in handcuffs. I never saw him again. That was 6 months ago. Now I'm sitting in my new condo, the one I bought with the settlement money Daniel's family paid me to avoid a civil lawsuit. I sold the house where he drugged and violated me. Too many bad memories. I went back to work at the hospital. My supervisor was horrified when she learned the truth about why I'd been having cognitive problems. They offered me my job back with a promotion and a raise. Turns out when your husband stops drugging you nightly, your work performance improves dramatically. I'm in therapy, working through the trauma of being systematically poisoned by someone I loved. Some days are harder than others. I have nightmares sometimes about waking up paralyzed, about Daniel standing over me planning my death. But I'm healing, slowly but surely. Natalia comes over every week. Lauren and I have movie nights every Friday. My parents visit from Florida every few months. I'm surrounded by people who actually love me, who would never hurt me, who proved they'd protect me when I needed it most. I'm dating again, a trauma surgeon I met through work. He's kind, genuine, and after I told him my story, his first response was, "How can I help you feel safe?" He's patient with my trust issues. He never pressures me. He lets me set the pace. It's still new, but it feels healthy in a way my marriage never did. I think about Daniel sometimes, about the man I thought he was versus the monster he turned out to be. I wasted 7 years of my life on someone who saw me as nothing more than a paycheck, who valued my death more than my life, who drugged me, violated me, and planned to murder me without a shred of remorse. But he failed. I survived. I outsmarted him. I gathered evidence, built a case, and destroyed his entire plan. He's in prison for the rest of his life, while I'm free, healthy, and thriving. People ask me if I'm angry, if I hate him. And honestly, I don't waste energy on hate. Hate is what Daniel felt, what drove him to do what he did. I'm not like him. I'm not capable of that level of cruelty, that level of evil. What I feel is relief. Relief that I discovered the truth before it was too late. Relief that I had people who believed me, who helped me, who fought for me. Relief that justice was served. Relief that I'm alive. To anyone watching this who might be in a similar situation, please hear me. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If your partner's acting strange, if you're experiencing symptoms you can't explain, if things aren't adding up, investigate. Don't dismiss your concerns. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're crazy. I almost died because I trusted the wrong person, because I ignored red flags, because I wanted to believe my marriage was solid, even when evidence suggested otherwise. Don't make my mistake. And if you discover your partner is drugging you, abusing you, planning to harm you, get help immediately. Tell someone you trust. Document everything. Gather evidence. Contact a lawyer. Contact the police. There are people who will help you, who will believe you, who will fight for you. Your life is valuable. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be with someone who cherishes that life, not someone who plots to end it for profit. I survived Daniel's murder plot. I exposed his crimes. I got justice. And now I'm living the life he tried to steal from me. Every day I wake up is a victory. Every breath I take is proof that he failed. That's my revenge. Not hatred, not wishing him suffering, just living, thriving, being happy, being free, being alive. Daniel wanted me dead so he could collect millions and start a new life with his mistress. Instead, he's in prison. Brianna's in prison. And I have the millions, the freedom, and a future full of possibilities. I think I won. My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 32 years old. My husband drugged me for 6 months trying to drive me insane so he could murder me for money. But I caught him. I recorded everything, and I made sure he paid for what he tried to do. I'm a survivor. I'm a fighter. And I'm living proof that the truth always comes out. Always. Stay safe out there. Trust your instincts. And remember, you're stronger than you know. You can survive anything if you refuse to give up, refuse to be a victim, refuse to let evil people destroy you. I survived. You can too. This is my story, and I'm here to tell it because Daniel failed to silence me. He's locked away. I'm free, and that's exactly how it should be. But there's more to this story, more that happened after the sentencing, more that you need to know about what Daniel lost and what I gained. Because the courtroom victory was just the beginning. The real revenge, the sweetest justice, came in the months that followed. Let me tell you about the day Daniel's entire life crumbled to dust. 2 weeks after his sentencing, I was contacted by Daniel's company, MedTech Pharmaceuticals. Turns out they wanted to conduct their own internal investigation into Daniel's activities. What they found shocked even me. Daniel hadn't just been a pharmaceutical sales manager. He'd been stealing from the company for over 2 years. Falsifying expense reports, padding his travel reimbursements, using his corporate card for personal expenses, including his affair with Brianna. He'd been funneling company money into offshore accounts, building a nest egg for his planned new life after my murder. The company's forensic accountants discovered he'd embezzled over $800,000, money he'd planned to access once he had control of my assets and could cover his tracks. But now, with him in prison and his crimes exposed, MedTech filed criminal charges for wire fraud, embezzlement, and corporate theft. Additional federal charges were added to Daniel's sentence. Another 15 years. Not that it mattered much, since he was already serving life, but it felt good knowing that every single crime he'd committed was being punished. But the fallout went further than just Daniel. Brianna, sitting in her prison cell, apparently had a lot of time to think about her choices, and what she decided to do next destroyed what was left of Daniel's world. She gave an interview to a true crime journalist, told everything, not just about the plot to murder me, but about Daniel's other activities I hadn't even known about. Turns out I wasn't the first woman Daniel had targeted. Before me, there was a woman named Christina in California. Daniel had dated her for 2 years while building his pharmaceutical career. She'd been an heiress with family money. They'd gotten engaged. And then, mysteriously, Christina had died in a car accident 3 months before their wedding. The brakes on her car had failed. She'd crashed on a mountain road. Daniel had been devastated, or so everyone thought. He'd collected a $50,000 life insurance policy he'd convinced Christina to take out with him as beneficiary. And then he'd moved to Denver, started fresh, and found me. When Brianna revealed this information, California authorities reopened Christina's case. They examined the wreckage of her car, which had been stored in a police impound lot. And they found the same evidence they'd found in mine. Deliberately cut brake lines. Daniel was charged with first-degree murder in California. Christina's family, who'd mourned her death as a tragic accident for 7 years, finally got justice. Finally got to know that their daughter hadn't died because of faulty car maintenance. She'd been murdered by the man she'd trusted, the man she'd planned to marry. I attended Christina's memorial service that her family held after the truth came out. Met her parents, her sister, her friends. We cried together. We shared our stories of loving and trusting Daniel, of not seeing the monster underneath the charming smile. Christina's mother held my hands and said, "Thank you for catching him. Thank you for stopping him before he could do this to another woman." But I had stopped him, hadn't I? If I hadn't figured out what Daniel was doing, if I hadn't recorded his confession, he would have killed me, collected my $7 million. And then, eventually, he would have moved on to someone else, some other trusting woman with money, some other victim who wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. How many women would Daniel have murdered if I hadn't exposed him? 3? 5? 10? The thought makes me sick, but it also makes me grateful. Grateful that I trusted my instincts. Grateful that my sister Natalia pushed me to investigate. Grateful that I had the courage to set up that camera and gather evidence instead of confronting Daniel immediately. I saved lives, not just my own, but the lives of every woman Daniel would have targeted after me. That realization helped with my healing more than any therapy session could. The civil lawsuits came next. Christina's family sued Daniel's estate for wrongful death. I sued for emotional distress, attempted murder, fraud. Daniel's parents, horrified by what their son had done, settled both lawsuits quietly. They paid Christina's family $2 million. They paid me $3 million. I donated half of my settlement to domestic violence organizations and victim advocacy groups. Money that would help other women escape dangerous situations, help them get legal representation, help them rebuild their lives. If my nightmare could prevent other women from experiencing the same thing, then something good could come from it. Daniel's mother sent me a letter after the settlement. She apologized profusely for her son's actions, said she'd raised him better than that, said she didn't understand how he'd become such a monster. She said she was proud of me for surviving, for fighting back, for exposing the truth. She said she hoped I could find peace and happiness. I wrote her back, told her it wasn't her fault, that some people are just broken inside in ways that even the best parenting can't fix. Told her I forgave her, that I knew she'd done her best. She didn't need to carry the guilt of her son's crimes. That burden was Daniel's alone to bear. We've stayed in occasional contact. She sends me Christmas cards. I think it brings her comfort to know that I don't hate her, that I don't blame her for what Daniel did. She lost her son too, in a way. Lost the man she thought he was, learned he'd been a murderer and a monster. That's its own kind of grief. Brianna's family, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with me. They blamed me for their daughter's imprisonment, said I'd seduced Daniel away from Brianna, said I was the real villain in this story. They actually tried to sue me for emotional distress, claiming I'd manipulated their daughter into participating in Daniel's crimes. The judge threw the lawsuit out within 10 minutes, told Brianna's parents that their daughter was an adult who'd made her own choices, who'd actively participated in planning my murder, who'd had sex with a married man in his wife's bed while the wife lay drugged and unconscious, feet away. Told them that trying to blame the victim was shameful and offensive. I never heard from them again. Good riddance. Brianna herself wrote me letters from prison, multiple letters over several months. The first ones were pathetic attempts at apology. She was sorry, she didn't know what she was thinking, she'd been manipulated by Daniel, she hoped I could forgive her. I ignored those letters, burned them without reading past the first paragraph. But then the letters changed. They became angry, accusatory. Brianna claimed that if I'd been a better wife, Daniel wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere, that if I'd been more attentive, more attractive, more interesting, he wouldn't have fallen in love with her, that this was somehow my fault for not keeping my husband satisfied. I actually laughed when I read that one. Laughed at the audacity of a woman sitting in prison for conspiracy to commit murder, trying to blame the intended victim for the crime. I wrote her back exactly once, one short letter. Dear Brianna, you're in prison because you made the choice to help a man murder his wife for money. Not because I was a bad wife, not because Daniel was unhappy, because you're a greedy, morally bankrupt person who valued money over human life. You had sex with a married man in his wife's bed while she was drugged unconscious. You helped him plan my murder. You cataloged my jewelry so you could steal it after I was dead. Those were your choices. Own them. You'll have 15 years to think about them. I hope every single day you remember that you're there because you tried to kill me and I outsmarted you both. Sincerely, the woman who's living the life you tried to steal. I never heard from her again either. My life now is something I never could have imagined during those dark months when I thought I was losing my mind. When I'd wake up confused and disoriented, believing Daniel's lies that something was wrong with me. When I felt like I was going crazy, not knowing that I was being systematically poisoned by the person who'd promised to love and protect me. I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in downtown Denver with mountain views. Decorated it exactly how I wanted, with no input from anyone else, no compromises. Every piece of furniture, every painting, every throw pillow is mine, chosen by me for me. It's my space, my sanctuary, and no one can take it from me. I got a dog, a golden retriever puppy I named Justice, because that's what I got and that's what saved my life. She goes everywhere with me, sleeps in my bed, makes me laugh every single day. She's pure love and loyalty, everything Daniel pretended to be but never was. Work is going well. Better than well, actually. I was promoted to head nurse in the pediatric unit. I love my job, love my patients, love knowing that I'm making a real difference in children's lives. The kids call me Nurse Maya and draw me pictures and give me hugs. It's the best part of my day. My colleagues at the hospital were incredible, through everything. When the news broke about what Daniel had done, they rallied around me, brought me meals, sent me cards, covered my shifts when I needed time for court appearances. They threw me a "you survived a murder plot" party when Daniel was sentenced, which sounds morbid, but was actually hilarious and healing. We had a cake with "congratulations on not being murdered" written in frosting. We drank champagne and celebrated justice. We laughed about how Daniel had underestimated me, how he'd thought I was weak and controllable and would never figure out his plan. They'd always known I was smart, strong, capable. Daniel was the idiot for not seeing it. My family relationships are stronger than ever. Natalia and I talk every single day. She was right about Daniel from the beginning, had sensed something off about him even when I refused to see it. Now I trust her instincts implicitly. She's my sounding board, my voice of reason, my fiercest protector. My parents visit from Florida every other month. My dad still feels guilty that he didn't see through Daniel, that he welcomed him into our family and trusted him with his daughter's life. I've told him 1,000 times it's not his fault, that Daniel fooled everyone, that psychopaths are expert manipulators. But dads are protective, and mine beats himself up for not protecting me from this. What he doesn't realize is that he did protect me. He and my mom raised me to be strong, to trust my instincts, to fight for myself. Those qualities saved my life. Their love and support helped me heal. That's what mattered. And then there's Marcus, Dr. Marcus Webb, the trauma surgeon I mentioned earlier. We've been dating for 4 months now, and it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had. He knows everything about what Daniel did to me. I was honest from our first date, told him I was in therapy, told him I had trust issues, told him I needed to take things slow. Marcus's response was perfect. He said, "I'll prove every day that I'm trustworthy. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." And he's kept that promise. He's patient when I have bad days. He holds me when I have nightmares. He never pressures me for anything. He lets me set every boundary, respects every limit, checks in constantly to make sure I'm comfortable. He's met my family. Natalia interrogated him for 2 hours straight, asked every invasive question imaginable, tried to find any red flags. Marcus answered everything honestly, never got defensive, understood that her protective instincts came from a place of love for me. By the end of the interrogation, Natalia pulled me aside and said, "Okay, I like him. He's good for you." My parents adore him. My dad especially, because Marcus treats me like I'm precious, like I matter, like my safety and happiness are his priority. Everything Daniel pretended to be, Marcus actually is. We're taking things slow. No talk of marriage yet. No moving in together. I'm not ready for that level of commitment, may never be ready again. But Marcus doesn't care. He says he's happy just being with me, spending time together, building something real and healthy. Last week, Marcus took me to Bali. The trip Daniel had planned to take with Brianna using my life insurance money. The trip they'd discussed while I lay drugged and unconscious in our bedroom. I'd mentioned it once to Marcus, told him about their plans, about how they'd fantasized about spending my money in paradise. Marcus surprised me with tickets, said we were taking that trip together, that we were replacing their ugly plans with beautiful memories, that Bali would be ours, not theirs. We spent 10 days there, swimming in the ocean, hiking through rice terraces, watching sunsets, eating incredible food. Marcus was attentive and kind and made sure every moment was about my healing, my joy, my reclaiming of the experiences Daniel had tried to steal from me. On our last night there, we were sitting on the beach watching the stars. Marcus turned to me and said, "I'm proud of you, for surviving, for fighting, for not letting what he did destroy you. You're the strongest person I've ever met," I cried, happy tears this time, because I'd reclaimed my life, I'd taken back my power, I'd turned my trauma into triumph. That trip to Bali was symbolic. It was me declaring that Daniel didn't get to define my experiences, didn't get to ruin places or moments or possibilities. He tried to kill me there in spirit by planning to celebrate my death there with his mistress. Instead, I was there alive, thriving, happy, with a man who actually valued my life. I scattered something in the ocean that night. Not ashes exactly, but something symbolic. I'd written down every fear, every painful memory, every moment of trauma on pieces of paper. Everything Daniel had done to me, everything Brianna had done, all the pain and betrayal and terror. I wrote it all down over dozens of pages. And then Marcus and I burned those pages on the beach, watched them turn to ash, and I scattered the ashes into the ocean, let the waves carry them away, let the water cleanse me of their poison. It was cathartic. It was healing. It was my final goodbye to that chapter of my life. Daniel sends me letters sometimes from prison. Long, rambling letters that I never read. My lawyer screens them first, keeps them in case they contain anything legally relevant, but otherwise keeps them from me. I don't need to read his excuses, his justifications, his attempts to manipulate me, even from behind bars. I know what he'd say anyway, that he loved me but needed the money, that he got in over his head with gambling debts, that he panicked and made bad decisions, that if I'd just been more understanding, more supportive, more something, he wouldn't have had to resort to murder. It's all lies. Narcissistic justifications from a man who can't accept responsibility for his own evil. The truth is simpler. Daniel was a psychopath who saw women as resources to exploit. Christina had been his first victim. I would have been his second, and there would have been more after me if I hadn't stopped him. He didn't love me. He never loved me. He loved what I could provide him: security, money, respectability. And when I became more valuable dead than alive, he didn't hesitate to try to kill me. That's not love. That's not even human. That's just evil. Christina's sister Jennifer and I have become friends. We talk regularly, share our experiences, support each other. She's farther along in her healing than I am since Christina's death was 7 years ago. But learning the truth reopened her wounds in some ways. At least now I know, she told me once. For 7 years, I blamed Christina, blamed her for driving too fast, for not maintaining her car, for the accident. I was angry at her for leaving us. Now I know it wasn't her fault. She was murdered. That changes everything. We're planning to do advocacy work together, speaking at events about recognizing red flags in relationships, about trusting your instincts, about how predators target vulnerable people. If our stories can save even one woman from a similar fate, it'll be worth reliving the trauma of telling them. I've also been working with lawmakers to strengthen laws around drugging and domestic violence. What Daniel did to me, drugging me nightly for months, wasn't specifically illegal in Colorado until my case. Now there are enhanced penalties for administering drugs without consent in domestic situations. It's called Maya's Law, which feels surreal but also meaningful. My nightmare led to legal changes that will protect other women. That's a legacy I can be proud of. The thing I've learned through all of this is that evil often wears a charming smile. It doesn't look like a monster. It looks like the perfect husband who brings you water before bed. It looks like the successful businessman who everyone admires. It looks like the grieving widower who collects sympathy and life insurance money. Daniel fooled everyone. My family, my friends, his colleagues, his family. We all thought he was this great guy, loving husband, successful professional, devoted partner. No, one suspected what he was really capable of until the evidence was undeniable. That's what makes narcissistic psychopaths so dangerous. They're expert manipulators. They know exactly what to say, how to act, which masks to wear. They study human behavior and mimic genuine emotion even though they don't actually feel it. Daniel could cry on command, could look devastated when discussing my illness, could play the concerned husband perfectly. But it was all performance. Underneath, he felt nothing. No remorse for poisoning me, no guilt about planning my murder, no love for me at all. I think that's what hurts most, even now. Not that he tried to kill me, but that he never loved me at all. Every moment of our 7 years together was a lie. Every I love you, every anniversary gift, every tender moment was calculated manipulation. I gave him my heart, my trust, my life, and he gave me nothing but lies and poison. But I survived. And now I know what real love looks like. It looks like Natalia refusing to stop asking questions until she uncovered the truth. It looks like my parents flying to Denver immediately when they learned what happened. It looks like Lauren holding me while I cried through panic attacks. It looks like Marcus being patient with my healing, never pushing, always supporting. Real love doesn't try to kill you. Real love doesn't put Rohypnol in your water. Real love doesn't sleep with someone else in your bed while you're drugged unconscious. Real love doesn't plan your funeral while you're still breathing. I know that now, and I'll never settle for anything less again. People ask me if I'll ever get married again, if I'll ever trust someone enough to make that commitment. Honestly, I don't know. Marriage means something different to me now. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a guarantee of anything. It's just a piece of paper, and papers can be signed by monsters as easily as by good men. What matters isn't the marriage certificate. It's the person. Their character, their integrity, their genuine care for your well-being. Marcus might be that person. Time will tell. But I'm not rushing into anything. I have all the time in the world now that I'm not being slowly poisoned to death. That's the gift Daniel accidentally gave me. By trying to kill me, by forcing me to fight for my life, he taught me exactly how strong I am. He taught me that I can survive anything. He taught me to trust my instincts, to investigate when something feels wrong, to never ignore red flags just because I want to believe in someone. He meant to break me, but he made me stronger. He meant to destroy me, but he refined me. I'm smarter now, more cautious, but also more confident. I know I can handle anything life throws at me because I've already survived the worst thing I can imagine. Last month, I visited Daniel in prison. First time I'd seen him since the sentencing. My therapist thought it might bring closure. I wasn't sure, but I decided to try. We sat across from each other in the visiting room, a plexiglass barrier between us. Daniel looked terrible. Prison had aged him, hardened him, taken away the charming facade he'd always worn. He looked like what he really was, a criminal, a murderer, a monster. "Maya," he said when he saw me. "Thank you for coming. I've wanted to talk to you, to explain." "I didn't come here for your explanations," I interrupted. "I came here to tell you something." Daniel leaned forward, hope in his eyes, hope that maybe I'd forgiven him, hope that maybe I still cared. "You failed," I said simply. "You tried to drive me insane. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You tried to steal my inheritance. You tried to murder me. And you failed at all of it. I'm healthy. I'm successful. I'm happy. I have everything you tried to take from me, and you have nothing. You're going to die in here, Daniel. You're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell, and I'm going to spend the rest of mine living freely, joyfully, victoriously. That's what I came here to tell you, that you failed, and I won." Daniel's face crumpled. "Maya, please. I made mistakes. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I was desperate. I wasn't thinking." "You murdered Christina," I said. "You cut her brake lines and sent her to her death. Then you moved to Denver and found me, another woman with money. How many more would there have been, Daniel? How many women would you have killed if I hadn't caught you?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Daniel said. "Christina's death was an accident." "They found the evidence," I said. "Cut brake lines, just like mine. You murdered her, Daniel. And you would have murdered me, and then you would have found another victim and another. You're a serial killer who got caught after victim number 2. That's your legacy." Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but I stood up. "I'm done here," I said. "I just wanted to see you one more time. Wanted to see you in your prison uniform, see you locked up where you belong, see the reality of your failure. Thank you for that." I walked out without looking back, and I felt lighter, freer, like I'd closed a door that had been hanging open, letting in a cold draft. Daniel is my past, a painful chapter that's over now. He can't hurt me anymore. He can't hurt anyone anymore. He's exactly where he belongs, and I'm exactly where I belong. That's justice. That's closure. That's victory. My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 32 years old. My husband tried to murder me by drugging me every night for 6 months, but I caught him. I recorded his confession, I gathered evidence, I exposed his crimes, and I made sure he paid for what he did. I also discovered he'd murdered another woman before me, and I made sure he paid for that too. Daniel Carter will die in prison. He'll never breathe free air again. He'll never feel the sun on his face without bars casting shadows. He'll never taste real food. He'll never sleep in a comfortable bed. He'll never hold someone he loves. He'll never have anything except regret and the knowledge that I destroyed him. That's my revenge. That's my justice. That's my triumph. And me? I'm living my best possible life. I have people who love me genuinely. I have work that fulfills me. I have a future full of possibilities. I have my health, my sanity, my freedom. I have everything Daniel tried to take from me. Every morning I wake up is a victory. Every breath I take is proof that he failed. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of joy is my revenge against the man who tried to erase me. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm thriving. And that's the best ending I could have asked for. Thank you for listening to my complete story. Thank you for witnessing my journey from victim to survivor to victor. Thank you for caring enough to hear the truth about what Daniel did and how I stopped him. If you found strength in my story, if you learned something that might protect you or someone you love, then sharing my nightmare was worth it. Stay safe, trust your instincts, fight for yourself, and never ever let anyone make you think you're weak or crazy or incapable. You're stronger than you know. You can survive anything. You can outsmart anyone. You can win. I'm living proof. This is Maya Rodriguez, signing off one final time. I survived. I fought. I won. And my story has a happy ending after all.